This urinal changed art history forever, and here's how it happened. It all started in 1917, when someone submitted this urinal to an art exhibition that claimed they would display any submission. The result was it became the most controversial piece of the day. Nearly a century later, it has been declared the most influential art piece of the 20th century. Yes, even more influential than these things. But how was a toilet able to transform the art world? And who was the man behind it? Enter Marcel Duchamp. Duchamp was an artist from a very young age, always with that little creative spark in him. As a child, Duchamp's art teacher only taught him the classical style of drawing to keep him away from the perverted art styles of the day. Art styles like Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. Ironically, Duchamp later became a post-impressionist and eventually involved himself with Cubism, the newest art movement at that time. Duchamp's artwork soon caught the attention of the art world, primarily for this piece, Nudist in a Staircase number 2, not to be confused with number 1 and number 3. Don't worry if this painting is confusing for you, since it confused a lot of people upon its debut. This painting is supposed to represent a motion capture image, what makes it hard to find the nude upon the first viewing. It's right here. Duchamp also received backlash for disrespecting the nude subject, since art tradition dictated nude should be female and depicted elegantly. Duchamp broke both rules, since the nude is just walking down some plain old stairs. But in the end, he didn't care about the haters. Duchamp tried his best to not only depict the subject's physical form, but also capture its essence. He wanted to capture things in his paintings that cannot be seen by the naked eye, like the stress of a chess game or a train passenger's sadness. Despite this, his work was still criticized. Here's a cartoon parody of the painting from the time period, which Duchamp actually approved of. However, haters gonna hate, because Duchamp's name soon became as recognizable as other artists of the day, like Pablo Picasso and Henri Matisse. The art world was in his hand. He was the face of the painting scene. And then he decided he hated painting. He withdrew from the art world, got a job as a librarian, and began researching a new direction for his artistic career. Duchamp concluded that paintings stink, and that's because they're a form of retinal art. Retinal art, in his words, is art that only pleases the eye. He believed that paintings were primarily focused on conveying an aesthetically pleasing image, but to Duchamp, that hindered the painting's ability to engage with the mind. In other words, he thought paintings primarily functioned as eye candy, at the expense of sharing a deeper meaning. So, Duchamp began to see paintings as flawed, because wasn't the point of art to provoke the viewer? After this revelation, he started an artistic series that not just made the viewer think, but forever changed the trajectory of modern art. Which leads us back to the urinal incident. The Society of Independent Artists, of which Duchamp was a board member of, believed anyone could be an artist. To celebrate this, for $6, they would display any art piece submitted to their open exhibition. No judging on talent. All art was welcome. So Duchamp bought a urinal, signed it Armut, and sent it in anonymously. Against some of the judges' wishes, it was hidden behind a curtain in the exhibition hall, the only submitted piece not openly displayed. The judges argued it was vulgar in connotation, plagiarized since the artist didn't make it, and just flat out not art. Duchamp believed that if anyone could be an artist, then anything could be art. In a way, this urinal was an experiment to test how far the liberal art taste of the society could go. However, this urinal was more than that. It was a ready-made, his antidote to retinal art. The ready-mades, titled simply since they were already made, were the result of Duchamp isolating an ordinary object from its initial use and displaying it. He thought that these ready-mades could be considered art since he had given them importance. It was art because the artist decided it was. These ranged from a bicycle wheel titled simply Bicycle Wheel, and a bottle rack titled Bottle Rack. He chose each object with visual indifference, and spent 30 years selecting only 13 ready-mades, so he didn't choose each object with a bias towards them. Though it may not seem impressive, This collection rebelled against centuries of art tradition and even the very definition of what was considered art at that time. After the exhibition, Duchamp revealed to the board that he submitted the urinal and resigned from the society. Fountain would have remained a small incident if Duchamp did not report what happened to a local art magazine called The Blind Men, and his articles soon led to Fountain being the subject of conversation in every artistic circle, especially shaking up the conservative art world of 1910s America. Duchamp was not the only one making art like this. Enter Dadaism, a genre of art that took hold after the shock World War I, and rather than respecting reason and tradition, Dadaists created art focused on nonsense and absurdity. After its debut, Fountain soon became the symbol of this movement. After Fountain, the definition of art was metaphorically destroyed. Art was not limited to paintings, sculptures, or poems anymore. Anything could be art. It was all up to the artist. This metaphorical shift greatly influenced the next generation of modern artists, from the surrealist work of Dali and Magritte to the abstract nature of Mondrian's and Pollock's paintings, to the glamorization of everyday objects in Koons and Warhol's work. Fountain changed art and influenced everything after it. Duchamp became more famous than ever. However, as unpredictable as Duchamp was, he soon announced to the world that he was going to stop making art and pursue a career as a professional chess player, one of his favorite hobbies. However, even after the world thought he gave up on art, he continued to make more experimental pieces until his death. The original Fountain was lost, but Duchamp created several replicas that are now all around the world. Andy Warhol used to own one of them. Fountain still sparks debate to this day, some calling it a masterpiece, others an artistic stunt devoid of meaning. Some paid homage to it, others visited and pissed on it on multiple occasions. However, love or hate the urinal, you cannot deny that Duchamp did things his way. His art is some of the most individualistic you will ever see, despite all the backlash he received throughout his career. Despite all the traditions he was encouraged to follow, he made art he felt was important to him. What you see in Fountain is up for you to decide, but you cannot neglect the fact that this ordinary porcelain urinal, bought from a simple plumbing shop, has forever changed the world as we know it.
I believe that art is the only form of activity in which man, as man, shows himself to be a true individual.
Boom, 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 boom.
Bogerland.